Ready? Well, I want to welcome you all to a first at Glen Church. First of all, you've got perfect seats to hear the Vega Quartet. We're delighted to have Will Ransom and the Vega Quartet with us. Don Sayers has a special relationship to these folks, but unfortunately he is in Israel today and has been diagnosed with a case of COVID. So
the whole bunch of them have.
there are six, Don and six others. But they, I'm sure that that's mainly a question of quarantine. So don't get disturbed. I think Don will be back with us. As a matter of fact, he's supposed to speak to this group in another couple of weeks, so we want to get him in good health. But he does have a special relationship with the Vega Quartet and with Will. But we're just so fortunate to have you all of you with us today. And I can say just a word about Will. He's really, for me, a new friend, although I have watched him perform for years and years, a number of years, more years than you'd like to. And I've always admired his work, but through a variety of events, we've come to know each other better. And so we're delighted that you're here. He's a graduate of the Juilliard School, which most will say is the most prominent of the music schools in this country. And so we're delighted to have him, and he's going to introduce the members of the Vega Quartet. But just to say a word about Will, if you want somebody who has potent energy and creativity and intensity, this is the man right here. And I suspect you all would agree with that. But we're delighted that they can be with us, and they have been so helpful in putting things together. And I also want to recognize Michael Doderman, who is our music director and arts director at Glen, who has helped us to put together this special seating arrangement and so forth. So without anything else to say, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks.
Will.
Thank you, Jim, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's amazing for me to be back here. It's actually quite emotional because when I first came to Emory, believe it or not, in 1985, this was our concert hall. This was where we played all of our major concerts, had all of our big rehearsals and everything else. And in fact, when I was interviewing for the job, and they were showing me the facility, the music facilities, which there were none, they brought me in and said, and this is our concert hall. And I said, oh, okay. And there was an old broken down piano in here at the time. And I asked the dean, I said, are there any plans to make some facilities for music here, some places for us to teach and a real performance hall? And he said, oh no, I don't think that will ever happen. Well, that just inspired me to work harder, and I've been thrilled not only to watch Emory grow, but to be a big part of watching music at Emory grow as well. And so I came in '85, and around 1993, I started the Emory Chamber Music Society of Atlanta to try and take the music that I love so much across the campus and across the community. And after a small start of just a handful of concerts and events, we very quickly grew like wildfire. And over the years, we've added many concert series and events. And in 2006, we added the String Quartet in Residence program. And the Vega Quartet moved from New York City, where they were then based, to become Emory's first ever quartet in residence, and the first professional string quartet ever to be based in Atlanta. And their work here, both at the university and around the city, has really revolutionized music and music education in the area. I've passed out some brochures, so if you don't know our work, you can get an idea of some of the things we do. Multiple concert series and a masterclass series. Last year we started a new initiative called Music for Healing, taking the quartet to hospitals and healthcare centers around the city to play live music for those who may need it the most as well. I also have so many memories of playing so many concerts in here, and in fact, at that meeting with the dean, I did say, well, could we at least get a new piano for Glenn? And he agreed to that, and this is the first piano that I ever went up to New York City to the Steinway factory and chose for Emory to have and use. And I haven't played it in probably more than a decade, and it's a wonderful old friend. It's always been one of my favorite pianos on campus, so it's wonderful to be back with my old buddy again as well. We have a variety of music to play for you today. When Jim first asked if I would come do a class, I happily agreed and wanted to play more than talk, because that's what I'm better at. And then I had an idea, and I asked these guys if they would join me. And many thanks, they said yes. There's a wonderful pianist named Martha Argerich, one of the great concert pianists in the world. But many years ago, she stopped playing solo recitals. And someone asked her once, why don't you play solo concerts anymore? And she said, you know, up there on stage all by myself, it's just too lonely. So that's one of the reasons I think I love chamber music so much as well. That said, I'm going to start with a solo piece, which I think is appropriate for today's meeting and today's topic, spirituality in music. Of course, the greatest musician of all, Johann Sebastian Bach, wrote so much extraordinary music, and at the end of every piece he wrote, he always signed three initials, SDG, Soli Deo Gloria, only for the glory of God. And you hear that in every piece that he wrote, whether it was for the church or for the court that he was working at, or just for himself as well. His whole life was devoted to this idea and all of his music. And I'd like to play for you the aria, just the theme from the famous Goldberg Variations.
Need to turn this on? Nope. All right. That may be better for I understand we're live streaming as well. Hello, people tuning in. And you in the back also. Welcome. Soli Deo Gloria. For me, all of music is spiritual. We all think of music and listen to music in different ways. For many people, it's pure entertainment. But for me, and I think most of my friends who are very serious about their music, it's a lot more than that. And for me also, this kind of music is as close to God's creations as anything else that comes through man. Music is magic. You cannot see it. You cannot touch it. You can't feel it. You can't smell it. And yet, these vibrations in the air that make up music, they touch us, and they move us, and they make something magical happen. And music itself, the kind of music that we enjoy, this Western music, it comes from nature. If you take a string and you stretch it, one of these violin strings, and you pluck it once, you cut it in half, you get the octave. If you do that again, you get the fifth. If you keep going again, you get the third. And if you keep going, cut it in half again, you get the seventh, and you put it all together, you get triadic music, harmony. So it's like a hidden art, in a sense. And for me, many of the great composers, the music comes through them, like Bach and like Mozart, that we're going to play for you now. Some composers worked very hard, and crafted their music and spent many, many hours changing it and editing it. But Bach, it's been studied that just the amount of music he wrote, it would take more time simply to write down all the pieces that he wrote than the 65 years that he lived. So it's kind of a miracle how he did that. It just came straight through him and flowed out onto the page. And of course, he was a great improviser as well. Mozart was the same way. In his very short life, turned out over 600 pieces, from operas, massive operas, to small, beautiful little piano pieces. We're going to play some joyful Mozart for you now. This is the final movement from one of his piano quartets, which was an innovation to have 3 strings with a piano. There had been piano trios and sonatas for one instrument with piano, but this is one of the very first piano quartets. And as I said, it's a very joyful piece. The whole quartet is in 3 movements and starts in a very dark G minor, but Mozart could never stay dark for very long, and this final movement, a rondo where the theme keeps coming back, is pure fun.
Can you hear me? Hi. Wasn't that beautiful? I get to hear these guys a lot in rehearsal, but it's so nice to just sit back and listen. Wow. So the next piece we're going to play for you is a string quartet by Beethoven. And Beethoven is somebody for whom life did not come very easily, as I'm sure you know. He lost his hearing over the course of his life. He had many difficulties in his life, financial, personal, health problems, and you can hear that in his music. There's a lot of struggle in his music. But he was a spiritual person also, and one of his most glorious pieces, I'm sure many of you know, is one of his late string quartets, Opus 132. And in the middle movement, it's a song of thanksgiving to God because he became very ill and almost died. And this is just one of the most beautiful slow movements. So to me, all of the incredibly beautiful music that Beethoven did write is made that much more beautiful by the struggle that he went through in his life. So we're going to play, not that piece, but we're going to play a slightly earlier quartet for you. It's Opus 95. We're going to play the two middle movements, so you'll hear a slow movement. It's not a very slow movement, but it's an allegretto ma non troppo, which is a sort of moderately slow movement. And then this goes attacca, which means directly without pause into the third movement, which you will certainly hear some struggle in this third scherzo movement. So we hope you enjoy these two middle movements of the Opus 95 by Beethoven.
Vega Quartet, playing wonderful, powerful, extraordinary Beethoven. Another reason it's very emotional for me to be here with you all today is because when I first came to Emory, all those years ago, very quickly, Timothy Albrecht, whom I think all of you know, became my closest friend. We were the two keyboard guys, of course, at Emory, and he helped shepherd me through my young and then middle and now my current years here at Emory, and I treasure him like a brother. They say you're born with one family and then you find your other family, and Timothy is definitely a brother for me. And very shortly after my arrival here, he introduced me to a wonderful couple of music lovers and Glen lovers named Emory and Virginia Griggs, who I imagine some of you remember as well. And they were members of the Judson Ward class. And I got to meet the distinguished Dr. Ward and started playing for the class about once a year. And I can't remember, it may be 20 years or so now, that both Emory and Virginia passed away, and my contact with the class kind of ended. And so I haven't been back since then. So I was absolutely delighted when Jim Waits called and asked if I would come speak to the class. Again, it feels like coming full circle after all these years. And now I'm thrilled to be able to bring this extraordinary group to you, the Vega String Quartet. They are still so young and look so young, but they've been playing as the quartet for over 30 years, if you can believe it. Won international awards. They play all over the world and teach as well. And we are so fortunate to have them here. They're going to tell you a little bit more about each one of them, and we'll have time for questions at the end as well. But something that I'm especially excited about and proud of and happy about is that a year or two ago now, I got a call that, as I always knew him, Dean James Waits, was interested in having a concert at Cannon Chapel in loving memory of his wife, Fentress. And would we be interested, would the Chamber Music Society be interested in putting on a chamber music concert there in her memory? And I thought, oh, what could be more beautiful than this? Before the Schwartz Center opened, we used to play in Cannon Chapel all the time, and I absolutely love that space. It's a very spiritual place in its own way as well. And when I was a young faculty member, not much older than the undergrads that I was teaching at the beginning, I often heard about the distinguished Dean James Waits, especially from my friend Timothy. And he was rather an intimidating figure, I have to say. But somehow our paths never crossed, and I never got to know him. So when this started a year or two ago, we met and we talked about the possibilities, and I'm thrilled that we will now have annual concerts in Cannon Chapel in Fentress's memory and sponsored by Jim Waits. And as he mentioned as well, not only am I so excited about these particular concerts and the meaning that they have, but so much more than that, I feel like over the last year, I've found a new friend as well, which is, as you know, a very special thing in life, one of the rarest things, perhaps, to find a kindred spirit and a true friend. So thank you, Jim. We're so looking forward to this concert. Yes, let's give him a hand. I think the date's April 23rd, but I'm not sure. It's in the brochure. It's called the Fentress Waits Concert, and it's going to be a very special one, this very first one. I thought of a program that couldn't be more appropriate. Joseph Haydn wrote a piece that was written for the dedication of a chapel in Spain. And this is the dedication of a new series in Cannon Chapel that Jim helped make possible, helped build, really. So there's that connection. And the piece is a very special one. It's for string quartet, but it's not just a typical 3 or 4 movement string quartet. It's written, because it was for this special chapel, on the 7 last words of Christ, the 7 last statements of Christ. So it's in 7 movements, 7 short movements with an introduction and an epilogue. And what we're going to do is have the Vega Quartet perform this, and in between each movement, we're having 7 speakers of 7 different faiths here at Emory. Everything from, of course, our own Don Salyers right here, to some Buddhist speakers and some Muslim speakers. Take each one of the statements and talk very briefly about it. It's going to be a magical, beautiful, moving program. I hope you can all join us. It's free. You do need to sign up online, but that's very easy to do. And all the info is in that brochure. So I hope you'll join us for that very special concert. And again, huge thanks to Jim for making that possible. And we're already planning for next season's programs there as well. I'm going to turn this back over to the Vega. Perhaps they can introduce themselves, each one briefly, and then we'll have a little more music and then some questions.
So my name is Emily Smith, and I actually just joined the Vega Quartet a few months ago. So I moved to Atlanta in end of January, and I was in New York before that, in New York City before that. Grew up in the Boston area. Spent most of my life, since I was 7 years old, playing chamber music and loving it more than anything. So I'm just very thrilled to be here with these wonderful colleagues.
Welcome, Emily. Yeah, I'm Jessica Wu. I'm a Silicon Valley, and I was born and raised in Shanghai, China, and I moved to this country about more than 25 years ago, and then furthered my studies, and then just stayed here. And Yinzi and I, we grew up together in Shanghai in the conservatory, elementary school together. We've known each other since we were 8 years old and started playing quartet since we were 12 years old. So it's been a while.
My name is Inti Kong. I play viola now. I used to play violin until the quartet needed a violist, and I have the biggest hands, so that became my job. I think except we were born into separate families in Shanghai. Otherwise, our experience in music is we're twins.
My name is Guang Wang. Actually, I grew up in the northern part of China, the city quite close to North Korea. But I went to Shanghai for college, where I met Yingzi and Jessica in 1990, and it's been a while. But we started playing quartet. Well, I joined them. They had a quartet already, but has been a great journey so far.
Okay, so come back to music. When we were asked to do this class, we said, absolutely, yes. So how much music do you want? How long do you want this class to be? And we were told, as long as you want. So we are bringing you this piece with 13 movements. I hear this startled silence going on. Just kidding. It is 13 movements, but every movement are very short, about 2-3 minutes. So this entire piece is about 18 minutes long. This is called 13 Fiddle Tunes for String Quartet. I am broke, but I'm badly bent. By a actually Atlanta-born composer, David Garner. He was born local, and he went to Duke for his doctorate in composition. And the most unique part about him in the repertoire we are playing today is he is still living. With 3 kids? 2 or 3? Yeah, 2 or 3. We'll check on that next time we see him. So one of the most interesting component for us being the quartet in residence at Emory is we get to bring our music to academic classrooms and relate music to the subject of the day. It could be a psychology class, religion, language, social science, physics, math, and more. And we are so intrigued by this part because it shines such a different light on music, on string quartet, on the repertoire that we've been playing for the last 30 years. And all of a sudden, we get to see it in a new angle. And also, many people ask us, so how do you come up with so much repertoire to go to different classes to explore that subject? Tell you a secret. We don't bring to the class many different repertoire. We pretty much bring very similar things every season. But we get to find so many different relatable characters in this same set of repertoire that will be suitable for each class. And that tells us how great music is, how universal, how boundless it can be when it comes to communication and expression. So this next 13 fiddle tunes of string quartet, we don't have time to explain every movement for you, but what I want to say is it's rooted in traditional fiddle tunes with modern playing technique, but without torturing our instruments. I will just read you the movement titles for these 13 tunes. So it starts with Drowsy Maggie, Georgiana Moon, Red-Haired Boy, The Day Dawn, Red-Haired Boy Reprise, and then the title song, I Ain't Broke, But I'm Badly Bent. The Kid on the Mountain, Shady Grove, Saratoga Hornpipe, Chinquaping Hunting, Isle of Mole, the Timpani Bit, and
She's testing my southern accent. I've been working on it. Sweet taters in Sandy Land.
Can you imagine in our household, both my husband and I talk so much? We're going to be playing those 13 tunes, Ataka.
Talk so much. They always make fun of me for talking so much that we're running a little bit long. And I'd love to have time for questions from you at the end as well. So I'd love to have them play the whole thing, but can we do maybe 4 or 5? Because they have a choral rehearsal that has to start after this, okay? All right, so you can announce which ones that you'd like to play.
So we're going to do the Red-Haired Boy, which is typically fiddle tune. And then the title song, I think it's worth listening to, I Ain't Broke, But I'm Badly Bent. And because Jessica already did the southern accent, so we have to do that movement, the last movement of this collection.
If that doesn't prove that music's an international language, I don't know what does. Three young people from Shanghai playing bluegrass-influenced country classical music. Absolutely wonderful. Before we take some questions, I've also passed out to you some brochures for a summer festival that I also run, the Highlands Cashers Chamber Music Festival. If you've never been up to Highlands, it's an easy 2-hour drive to get up there from here, but it's a completely different place. It's a little piece of paradise up in the mountains, almost a mile high, about 15 to 20 degrees cooler in the summers than here in Atlanta. Incredible music, great restaurants. If you're golfers, great golf and shopping and all sorts of fun stuff. So come up and hear some great music and have a wonderful time in the summers as well. We'd love to take questions from any of you about anything you can think of about the music, about the quartet, about our lives here at Emory or around the world. You have a mic
Just
to
so
pass out.
questions can be heard.
Best question at all. Can they play a few more songs? Does that sound good? Okay, you want to do a couple more short ones? Yeah, why don't you do a movement of Mendelssohn? That'd be great. Beautiful, amazing, amazing what a composer can come up with imagination, making these 4-string instruments sound so magical. And we'll leave you with that kind of music of the spheres floating off, with great thanks for having us here today, and wishing you a beautiful and blessed Sunday. Thank you.
Well, we could listen another hour or more, and we appreciate all of your coming today. Jim Gibson said if we were able to get 5 of these musicians up on a Sunday morning before breakfast, that was quite an accomplishment. We will make each of you, this is a famous Sunday school class, and that's what I call it. And we will make each of you alumni, honorary alumni. We hope you'll come back. Thank you. And that's our benediction. The peace of God that passes all understanding, keep your mind and hearts in the love of God, and the blessings of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, go with you this day and all days to come.
Thank you so much for coming. If you don't mind just exiting as quickly and safely